My name is Sarah and welcome to Infinite Care's final episode of the Lunchbox Series with Everybody's Omar. Thank you to all our viewers for joining us today, and thank you to Jason and Megan for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us again. I believe you've had quite the eventful night. If you wanted to just talk us through what happened with Omar last night.
It was a full night, Sarah. we had a relatively beautiful, ordinary day, and then, of course, as is, we're becoming used to the unpredictable nature of dementia. Well, this is not necessarily a dementia thing, but she just fell ill after dinner and started vomiting and being quite distressed with that. And so we ended up in a local hospital till 1:30 this morning, and she's all good and well now. She's had some of those beautiful little magic wafers under the tongue to stop her being sick, and we think she just picked up some kind of a bug, to be honest. But we were a little worried because she also had her COVID jab yesterday, and so a little voice in Megan's head was like going, maybe it's a side effect, we don't know. So just to be on the safe side, we decided probably a hospital trip was the safest thing to do, as is usually the case when we're not sure. And yeah, it was good. It just ticked the boxes, and the staff were lovely, and we're all home and she's well. And she's having a rest actually at the moment. So yeah, all good.
Nice and convenient. Well, last week we talked about the fun stuff, the social media stuff, and today we named Behind the Scenes with Omar. So I guess it's quite apt that reality has hit you in the last 24 hours. So I was reading a study the other day that said that 1 in 10 people in the US have Alzheimer's and 1 in 2 that are over 85, which is quite alarming statistics. And I'm sure you've done your own research over the last few years being touched by this yourself. Are there any changes that you've made in your lifestyles or your diets that you could share with us? Anything you've found out in your travels?
Yeah. Well, see, Megan's a nutritionist as well, so I know you've been carefully tuning my diet to make sure I'm eating more of the good stuff. So I'm sure you've got some things you want to add to that. I have actually started taking some nutritional supplements just to, if nothing else, just to make myself feel like I'm doing something towards putting myself in a better position, and trying to just do a walk every day to stay fit. And I mean, I'm one of those complete fitness apathetic characters that I would happily sit in a chair all day and just edit and make films and not leave the house essentially. So Megan has to kick me out at the crack of dawn to go for a walk in the morning, but I'm glad she does. Yeah. So what's the supplement I've been taking? It's
a herbal supplement, so Bacopa.
Bacopa. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been some talk about that having some good preparation effects for giving your mind some extra strength. What have you been doing in our cooking secretly?
There's lots of additives in terms of extra vegetables and extra little nutritional little supplements that go into a lot of our meals that you don't know about.
I thought that lasagna tasted different.
It's just lots of antioxidants, really, just things that try and prevent inflammation and limit inflammation and create a nice healthy environment inside us. And it's not just food that I think about in terms of inflammation, it's stress as well. So like in the recent months, we've experienced quite a lot of stress within the house with things changing with Oma as well, and that's something that we can also manifest itself into inflammation, and that's something that we've really got to be conscious of as well. Like I've recently started seeing a psychologist just to sort of get things off my chest and work through a lot of things, and it's really working.
I've started meditating. That's the other thing I've started doing. I've started meditating. And I'm also conscious of the fact that I need to start learning some new things again, because I am approaching the age of 50 next year. So I've got it in my pipeline to, I've never been able to play an instrument. I've never learned another language other than Dutch and English. I'm horrible at reading. I like watching things, and I'm not a big reader, but all those things I want to change. So I want to try and gradually adopt new things that I haven't done yet to try and retrain my brain. Even simple things like learning to teach myself to draw with my left hand, not just my right. So I don't just have the right hand bias. So that just trying to train different parts of my brain and give myself the best possible chance to. I mean, we're talking about me. What about you? You're also in.
Yeah. A lot of the same sort of things. It's a lot more trying to do a lot more socialization, like because we are very within our four walls a lot of the time. So it's making sure that we still have 3 social groups that we're constantly seeing and things like that. Spending quality time with each other and our children, and Oma, and making those times really special.
Yeah.
And more meditating, more walking, lots of little things. But we have to check in with each other to make sure we're doing them too, because we can snowball a little bit and get away from each other. So
It sounds like you're doing all the right things. Jason, is Alzheimer's in your family?
Well, it is obviously through my mother, but we're now actually discovering that we think my father probably had it as well, at least the early stages of it. So my dad passed 10 years ago, and he died from cancer. However, there was things that he was doing in the last year or so of his life that are now definite indicators of Alzheimer's. The way he was unable to navigate a familiar shopping car park in his car and drive back home again. There was just those little things that we at that time just put down to him being tired from chemo or old age, or just being befuddled and whatnot, because we had no experience and no history with dementia. We didn't really think anything about that. We didn't think of labelling it as something. But in conversations I've had with some people in the dementia space since, the more I've been talking about, the more I realise that he's probably had it too. So yeah, that's sort of bumped up the risk factors for me.
Yeah, that must be scary.
It is a bit. I think it's one of those things that's, I used to always be eternally scared of getting cancer after my dad got cancer. I think whenever you're touched by something in your family close to you, I think it's innate to have a bit of a fear that maybe you're next in the line. But I think it's also really important to not let that overwhelm you as well, because I think, there's probably a lot to be said for, keeping your own spirit healthy and just good, positive attitude will go a long way towards preserving what you can do with your health and your genetics and making that work to its strongest.
Yeah. Now, Megan, you mentioned that you guys have experienced a lot of extra stress lately. How do your kids cope with that? Because you've got such varying ages in your home. So is it 2 is the youngest and 19 was the oldest? How do they all react differently when they can tell you're stressed or when Oma's suffering?
Sorry. Yeah, no, they all do react differently, very differently, in their own ways. We're very good when, like, for example, like last night, I don't know, we're just quite a good team, and we are always very calm when Oma's in that kind of a scenario, and we don't even say anything to each other. It just kind of happens, and that helps, especially the little ones. That helps them, I think, a lot, because they don't sense that we're, on any sort of edge, and they're normally okay. And to be honest,
and I mean, having said that, it's pretty traumatic for any family when you've got to call an ambulance at night, and the kids are awake and they hear that and they see what's going down. I mean, it's very easy for kids to get very spooked by that, and we don't want our kids to also have a fearful journey through asking for help. So making sure that they understand that this is part of our choice and part of Oma's condition. It's all part of the story and all part of the picture. So I think the way you in particular have really addressed it with the littlies, with our 2-year-old and our 6-year-old, is admirable, because they really have a no fear, and if anything, they're very helpful, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And helpful in not being stressed and agitated and upset as well. Like, that helps the situation. But we talk about stuff very openly as well. Like, we're definitely a family that every night we come together at the dinner table and eat together and talk together. And I think that makes a really big difference, because we make sure we communicate we might not communicate all day because there's so much going on all day, but we always come together at 6:00 and have dinner.
I'm actually really shocked at how many families today don't do that. And I don't know whether we're big nerdburgers and
We are.
but it's astounding, because I think, given everyone's busy lives, at school, and Oma's life, and then work life, and everything else. It's probably one of those rare moments where it is the only time of the day where we know everyone's going to be sitting in the same space, and it is that opportunity. It's almost like ceremony for conversation, so yeah, it's important to preserve that.
Yeah.
It's such a small thing that can make such a big difference for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sort of what you were saying as well, Jace, like the kids are getting quite used to seeing the ambulance. Like just in the last 12 months, we've had the ambulance here maybe 3 or 4 times. So it's not a scary thing. It's becoming something that they're quite used to, and like you say, they understand that this is help. Like it's not something that's frightening. Oma always comes home, and things like that as well. So, yeah, and we handle it quite well, I think.
Little pat there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can remember far enough back to before Omar lived with you, but how has this changed your lives the most? Maybe you've blocked it out.
So much. So much. I mean, there's no spontaneity anymore, is there? Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing I think I miss is just being able to jump up and do stuff, and not having to announce to anyone or plan around going to the shop to buy a loaf of bread, to not have to plan and announce to anyone that you need to go and pick up one of your children from an activity or I think it was funny because Oma's house, when she was the matriarch of my family, that was a really strict house, and I know a lot of people I've spoken to that grew up in European family homes, so super strict. It's weird because they're quite liberal in their thinking, particularly the Dutch, but they run a pretty strict regime at home, and everything happened at particular times, and everything, it was just so regimented, and that was kind of good because it got me into the habit of process of doing things and understanding, that there was a template, if you like, to living a day. And then of course when I gained my independence, I did everything I could to break free from that and to not have that template ruling every day. And now we're kind of sort of going full circle, and we're closing back into that cycle again, and it's funny because Oma, as my mother, she's losing her memory, but she's still the family matriarch, and she's still teaching us how to come together as a family, and she doesn't even realise it. It's quite beautiful.
Mothers never stop being mothers, do they?
No.
I've got a few questions from attendees that I'll just pop into the middle here. One is, my mother now has dementia and I want her to stay at home. What made you make that decision with Omar rather than look at residential care?
Well, you go.
Yeah, look, for us, we thought it was a decision we could make because we were running our own business. So we had control of our career and our income, and I guess we could steer and shape our professional lives around a stronger bond with home. And so that was a decision we could make without having to, negotiate with an employer or an organisation to try and get special leniency to keep someone at home under full-time care. It's definitely not something for the faint-hearted. It's not easy. You can't do it alone. You need support services around you. You need good neighbours. You need a lot of things for this to work. However, it is also incredibly rewarding and life affirming. And I think that's one thing that, I want to stress is this is a decision we made because we were able to do this, and it's not easy, it's hard, but it's not the right decision for everyone. And, making the choice to either do at-home care or to place your loved one into residential care is different for everyone, and there's a whole range of scenarios that are going to come into play for each individual family. And I've seen some examples of the exact opposite of what we're doing, and that's working beautifully. So I think it depends on so many different things. It depends on who you are as a couple or as an individual. That's the caregiver. Your family makeup. I think your support systems. how flexible you can be with your work, and how adaptable you can be to the process, because it is a continual process of evolution as we're discovering. It's just as we got everything sort of set in place for a few weeks, then something changes, and it's not demonizing that. It's understanding that that is part of this, and that's part of our learning. And we either embrace it, and when it gets too much and too hard, that's when we know we need to start looking at other options for Oma. And again, I think I've said it before in a previous episode that we're not closed-minded to the fact that this may not work for us forever. There might well be an instance with Oma's health that it makes more sense for us to place her into residential care, and when that comes, that's something we need to address. But for now, given our life circumstance and our choices, we can do this. And we did the same for my dad. We looked after him in a palliative way when he was he in his last few months of cancer. So we're doing this in a stretched out way for Oma, but it's something we were able to do, so we wanted to.
Okay. How do you encourage Oma to eat when she's not hungry?
This is your professional.
Well, there's a art of distraction. Oma only has 3 meals a day. She's very structured, so she'll have her breakfast, she'll have her lunch and dinner. So, and she's very compliant in that regard as well, and because she likes to have it at 12 o'clock and 5 o'clock and things like that as well. So at the moment, because I've had to change what she's eating and preparing her meals, and then she's sort of re-preparing them, she's still kind of having that whole process of that connection with food. And then we're sitting down together, or yourself is sitting down together with her and eating the meal with her. And a lot of it is distracting her of the things that are outside, or we take photos in or little trinkets in and sit with her and talk about what's in front of us, or talk about what's going on outside, if it's raining, if it's sunny, if there's a bird. And then we find that over the 20 minutes or half an hour that we're spending with her eating, that she does end up finishing what she's eating.
And she's eating more?
She is eating more.
Which I was blown away.
Yeah.
She's eating more. You went to the doctors with her yesterday just as she got her COVID jab to do a weigh-in.
Yeah, and she'd put on 3 kilos, which was amazing.
Since the last hospital event. So that was huge. That was a big
huge.
win.
Now she's probably gone backwards because of yesterday's episode. But a lot of the time it's a little bit of trickery, like a little bit of distraction, but there's lots of little things that we do with Oma as well, that there's a little bit of trickery and lots of little things that we do just to help her along her way.
Yeah, well, you got lots of little great ideas, like serving a meal on a larger plate.
Yeah, that's
to make the meal look smaller is a great trick. So she doesn't complain and say, "Oh, that's too big." A bigger plate makes the food look smaller.
Yeah,
So,
and we use quite a huge bowl for her soup, so it makes it look like there's not a lot of soup. Just little things like that. A little bit of a distraction, a little bit of trickery, but kind of works.
it works. It totally works.
Sounds a bit like feeding children, young children. Same sort of tricks. Another question, does she become hypersensitive to sounds and get upset? If so, how do you ease this?
Only big sounds, doesn't she? Because she has quite a big hearing deficit in one ear because she has an acoustic neuroma. But she manages to hear really loud bangs or barks, and that startles her quite a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's no, like the top end and mid-range is sort of absent. And so with a loud sound, she can't place where it comes from. And so I think it's almost like when you've seen someone that's got shell shock, from a war area, and they hear a loud sound and they duck for cover. She kind of has that duck and dive kind of mentality when she hears a loud sound, and she's very confused. And that loud sound could be, Evie calling out in the background, or a kid laughing. Could be our dog barking at a courier that's putting something at the door. It could be any number of things.
Yeah. But she wouldn't be hypersensitive per se to sounds. I don't think.
No, but sound does become a distraction for her. Or actually, I might reword that. Sound becomes a distraction for us when we're dealing with her. And we find when we go into her apartment to chat with her, if we don't turn the television or the radio down because it's up at this volume, if we don't turn that down, we can't be clear in our thoughts, and we can't lay the template of what we need to communicate to her across effectively with other extraneous sounds around us. So we try and make it as quiet as possible, so she's just focusing in only on what we're saying and not everything else. And sometimes we do that with meal times too. We'll turn the TV or the radio down, just so that there's she's concentrating on the conversation and not just taking piecemeal parts of the conversation and joining that together herself. But yes, sound can play, and it plays very differently with different people with dementia. I've noticed. A lot of people, particularly when they don't have a hearing deficit, of course, will find it's very difficult to lay a sound in a scene. And so, something that might, for you and I, play out as just an ordinary background sound of, a radio playing in the background or a reversing truck or something like that, to someone with dementia and specific forms of dementia, that sound can be at the foreground and can be super annoying and can block them from processing anything else that's going on around them.
Which is part of the reason why we probably never got her hearing aids. A lot of people have said to us, she has a hearing deficit because of the neuroma. Why don't you get hearing aids? And if she was able to hear absolutely everything all of a sudden, that would probably be quite scary.
And we use it to our advantage every now and then, Sarah. So sometimes when we have to have a little conversation just between the two of us in front of Oma, we just lower the volume a few notches and we know she can't hear it.
Yeah.
It's like putting the mute button all of a sudden in the scene, and all she's seeing is... Oh, we know what's going on, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Very clever. Are there moments behind the scenes where things feel really overwhelming for either of you? And what do you do in those times?
Yeah. Yeah.
The repetition can get really taxing. So, I've said before in a video somewhere that, you spend your whole life learning how to put story together and how to build dialogue with someone, but nothing really can teach you in life how to pull dialogue apart or how to deconstruct story into little base blocks again. And I find with dementia, it's very much that it's learning not to get so hung up yourself on having to repeat things over and over and over. And sometimes repeating things 6 times in an hour might not be so bad, but 6 times in 10 minutes might actually start giving you a little tick inside, and you start catching yourself that you're not really as patient as what you were the first or the second time you started saying something. So I think that's definitely one thing that gets us. And obviously events like last night,
it's very
the trauma of
compounding.
seeing her upset.
Yeah.
When we feel that she's out of control is, I think, when we're at our most vulnerable, because we're always trying to make something right for her. We're trying to correct. And a great friend of mine pointed out to me, it's men have this instinct inside them that they've got to fix things. And, you see something wrong or something's happening and you've got to fix it. And there's so much about this condition that's unfixable that just needs to be managed. And sometimes it's hard to cross that bridge between stopping yourself trying to fix something and actually starting trying to manage something.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time when it is overwhelming, we thankfully have the ability to be able to tag, so we can just tap out and go, look, I can't continue with what's going on there, can you please take over? So we are really empathetic with each other to be able to do that. And we try and we just do it unconsciously. We try and do one big block, and someone else will take on another big block if we know that there's if we know it's an overwhelming or compounding kind of day. So
for instance, today, the follow-up from the hospital visit last night was I had to take Oma to our GP again this morning. We had to sit and wait for a long time because we were unbooked, and we had to go to the chemist, and all of that took a couple of hours. So by the time I got home and it was Oma's lunchtime, Megan could tell and would predict that I would be a little bit over it and I need a bit of a mental health break. So you just stepped in, you did the lunch thing, you sat with her, you put her to bed for a snooze. And we, the beauty I think that I really appreciate is we don't have to ask each other that. That's just something we can read and see. And it's quite beautiful that we can kind of just understand that from one another.
Yeah.
You're a good team. Last question. What piece of advice, or what hope can you give to others in this sort of situation or embarking on this journey, and what advice can you give other carers on how to get through it? Sorry, that was 2 questions.
Oh no, you can answer it the same. I think the same way is it's patience. It's absolutely patience, and making sure that there is enough support around you to be able to do it, because you can't do it on your own. Like you actually can't, and that is healthcare support, neighbourly support, spouse, partner, friend, relative, mum who answers your phone calls all the time that you whinge to, support. It's definitely those two. And just do everything from a place of love. Like when it's really, really, really hard, you've just got to center yourself in a place of love and just keep going, really.
Yeah. And I second that. And the only other thing I would add to that, Sarah, is to learn to appreciate the now. And I think when you're living with someone in your close circle with dementia, it's a real mind shift change for us, because we've grown up in a generation where we're always thinking about tomorrow, and we're always being taught to have aspirational values and to save for something and to look forward to something, the next holiday, the next catch up with friends, the next time you're going out for a meal, the next car, the next television, the next whatever it might be. And one of the big things I think that dementia has taught us, that Oma continues to teach us through her condition, is the love and the appreciation of what you've got right here, right now, at this minute. And, for us right now, that's appreciating the fact that we're having this great conversation with you, and that we have an opportunity to have this chat and share it with you guys watching at home. It's understanding that there is no predictable framework or pathway that you're about to venture on. That every day, some days are going to be incredibly the same, some days are going to be incredibly different, and that's okay. And not to be too hard on yourself, because I think as a carer, I think you fall into a trap of really beating yourself up and feeling like you should be doing more, you should be doing better, you should be doing things twice as fast or twice as slow. There's always a reason to second guess yourself. And you need to, with the love of that circle you just mentioned, or the good support systems you place around yourself, you need to remember to love yourself, and you need to remember that what you're doing is enough. And that as soon as you embrace that, and as soon as you stay with that, it makes the whole situation a lot more livable.
Yeah, well said.
And you're creating beautiful memories, and the fact that you're documenting them is really special as well. Really nice for everyone to look back on. So
yeah, can I just say before we wrap up, I really want to just a huge heartfelt thanks to Infinite Care for for supporting everybody's OMA. The support of wonderful organisations like you guys means that we can tell OMA's story, and that's not an easy process, and there's a whole machine behind that. But the support that you guys gave us went a big ways towards allowing us to continue filming this year and to start the edit process. We're having incredible pictures at the moment. We've got some super exciting news to announce very, very soon. We're just waiting on some signatures. But, this is happening because of the generosity of organisations like you guys. So, huge thanks from us to you for giving us the chance to share Oma's story with the world as well.
Well, I think it's been our total pleasure. We've been so excited. And it's been so nice talking to you guys. You've made it very easy, and thank you so much for your openness and, no holds barred with any of the questions I've asked. And I've sometimes, mostly I forget there's another audience, because it's so easy talking to you guys, just having a chat.
Well, there's more than us.
But thank you so much for your time. I know it hasn't been easy to make the time, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And good luck with everything, and make sure you keep in touch and let us know how it's all going. And we're excited to see the documentary. And I think we get a sneak peek, don't we, as a sponsor? That'll be exciting.
Absolutely do. Yeah, which will be exciting.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you guys. Hope Oma wakes up in a happy mood, and
she's still snoozing.
Just last shot. We're just monitoring her during our conversation. She's just having a little snooze in her bed there, so we can just keep a little quiet eye on her.
Puts your mind at ease.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you guys.
Guys.
And thank you everyone else for joining us, and hopefully we'll do more of these in the future. We'll keep you posted. Thank you. Bye guys.